looking for something. A new way, a new understanding, a connection, some comfort. You've got questions, and Light on Living puts the spotlight on all the answers so you can shine. Lift and lighten the load of life's challenges and learn simple and easy ways to live a healthy, happy life. You'll gain insight and start to see things in a new way that motivates you. You're invited to hear new, see different, and feel more as Lisa shines the light on living.
Hello and welcome to Light on Living. I'm Light Coach Lisa, holistic nutritionist and life coach, helping to lighten the load of life's challenges. Today we learn how to transform fear into freedom. And since even starting to read our guest, Leah Guy's book, I have realized how much hidden fear I actually have in my life, keeping me from my freedom. So I'm looking forward to today's show to helping all of you. Today, Leah Guy is going to share her belief that disconnection is the root of all fear, and fear is what keeps us stuck. The book I'm so happy to be reading is called The Fearless Path, and it offers profound insights and practical exercises for emotional healing and spiritual growth. My favorite is the Debunking the Myth of Letting Go, and how Leah explains how this approach creates more problems than it solves. Leah Guy is a down-to-earth health educator, author, and intuitive transpersonal healer, an inspirational speaker, yogi, and media personality. She folds in 20 years plus of energy healing, bodywork, and nutritional studies alongside an intuitive approach to wellness that creates a perspective and healing that is unique and transformative. So much good stuff going on here. She has overcome anxiety, sexual abuse, eating disorders, and addiction using the principles in her new book. And as I mentioned, it's The Fearless Path. Leah spent her life helping others find release and freedom from personal afflictions. And sharing just a little bit more about Leah, she has produced and hosted wellness programs, celebrity talk shows, commercials, and is on camera spokesperson for over 15 years. She's also a musician, an artist, and my favorite, a dog lover. Leah also owns a lifestyle media company, A Girl Named Guy Productions, and I love that because her last name's Guy. I'm so happy to have you here, Leah, and as we get to discuss all the goodies that are in your book, like I actually had to slow down reading it because there's so much in it that I had to transform. And so welcome to the show, Leah.
Thank you. So great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, terrific. Well, right away I open the book, and I read your very first line, and it says, "To all who suffer, yet find the courage to love." And I just thought that was so beautiful and so supportive. And I don't even know if anybody's ever asked you about that line, but what a cool line. Where like, to all who suffer, yet find the courage to love. Why did you write that line?
It just kind of came to me because I realized we all suffer, but some of us shut down, and others of us really muster the strength to continue and to keep our hearts open and to face the next day. And yet, even those that struggle to do that, without them realizing or not, they are still hanging on. And so the book is really for everyone. But I want to emphasize and encourage the people that are courageous enough to continue going, because it's tough sometimes. Life is tough.
Yeah, that's kind of, I feel like sometimes what I say to myself is, well, that's why I'm here. I'm here to experience stuff, so it can't be all easy, otherwise I'd just be gone. So, in the book, you've kind of had these little areas. Like it feels to me when I'm reading the book, it feels like a workshop for myself almost. Was that the plan? Because you do a lot of wonderful explaining.
Oh, thank you. Well, I teach a lot of workshops, and writing a book for me was also overwhelming. So I figured the way I could do it that made sense for me was in a way that hopefully makes sense for other people. So the layout, I do get a lot of compliments about the layout because it's very straightforward. And although it's a spiritual and kind of self-help and, diving into some difficult issues, the layout and the exercises and the stories and the quotes, I think, help break it up make it palatable and easy to read and, easy for people to connect to. So I'm really grateful about that. And the publishers did a good job with that too.
Oh, they really did. And you're right, because sometimes I was looking through and then I thought, oh, well, look, if I didn't want to, like you said, dive in and try to get it all, just take it all in or learn something, I can just read a quote. I can just read a little thing. In the first part, we're talking about discovery, like we're discover. And it's about, you mentioned about presence. I want to see if we could talk a little bit about that and why that's so important.
Well, I think presence it's becoming very, mindfulness and being present is becoming very popular and almost cliche these days. But it is one of the most important elements to healing, to starting to transform. We have to be honest and authentic and in the moment and in our bodies and in our real experience so that we can deal with what's actually going on. So many people are constantly living in the past, or they're always worried about what's going to happen in the future. And although that does sound cliche, there is a real bona fide truth to being in this moment. And what does this moment offer you? And in this moment, what am I thinking? And in this moment, what do I truly feel? Am I bringing the feelings from the past here? Or is my feeling right now different than it was in the past? And being honest about that and taking a little time to discover what is actually real, because so much of the time we're playing tricks with ourselves. We are unwilling to be present because we want to either seek revenge or stay in the pain or want something that we can't have, or et cetera. So it's a very important part, and the first part for me of getting on the path of healing.
I really hold the path. When you're just saying that about being honest, and I just, as I was reading and going through, I thought, wow, this is going to sound so weird, but sometimes I wonder, how do I know if I am being honest or if I am just trying to let go and move on, or maybe I really have. I want to ask you personally, like, how does one know? And I just want to give an example. Sometimes I just say something that may be heavy to somebody else, like something that I've gone through, but I'll say it so just because it's an event and I'm through it and it's done, but then I've been told, like, well, God, you're so heartless about it or something, but it's because I really kind of have healed that. How does one know if they're being honest or if they're hiding from it?
Well, I think it's unrealistic for us to have no emotions or feelings about anything. Like, for example, I've talked very honestly about, in the book, I talk very honestly about the rape that I went through. And, a lot of people go through something similar or what have you. And then you hear people say, oh, I'm over it, or I can talk about it now without crying, so I must be through with it. And that is still a product of judgment in our mind. Why do we have to measure where we are with anything? That's just the mind trying to control things. That's the mind trying to make you feel safe. And while it's important to feel safe, it's also really important to be real. And that's the point of being present, is I'm not judging myself. I still have emotions when I talk about the rape. I am 20-something years past it, and I've done a lot of healing work about it, but it would be a lie and also totally unrealistic for me not to have any feelings left about that. And so not having feelings or not having thoughts or whatever isn't necessarily indicative of that you're better than you were. Again, that's just a judgment. Better than what? The better is the judgment. What it is what it is, and that is what is part of my life, and I don't need to judge it. And so when you get to the point where you don't need to judge it and you can just be whatever it is with it, that's how you know when you're healing. And healing never ends. It just is never over. So, again, the mind wants to make you believe that over there is something better. And when you're healed, when you're better, when you're finished, when you've moved on, then you're going to be something different. And that's a false illusion that's causing so many people to feel inadequate, unworthy, anxiety, and like they're never living the life that they're meant to live. And it's causing the most problems in our healthcare system, as far as I can see.
Yes, the thing I love that you use. I've ever heard anybody use that. Well, like as much like that, powerful, inadequate. Like we talk about worth, you know, or like you said, the judgment, but inadequate. It's actually, that's a rather scary place to be. Feeling inadequate.
Yeah. Well, that's why we try to get out of it. You know, we try to make ourselves be better than we were yesterday or better than somebody believes us to be. And that's all coming from that sense of inadequacy, unworthiness, low self-judgment, criticism, et cetera. And so, you know, if you take all that judgment away, what do you have left? You have this present moment. In this present moment, what is real right now? And that's how you discover.
Oh, I love that. We're going to go to a quick commercial and come back continuing this lovely conversation.
The best of the holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Humanity Healing International is a small nonprofit with a big dream. Since 2007, HHI has been working tirelessly to bring help to communities with little or no hope. Our projects are not broad mandates, nor are they overnight solutions, but they bring the reassurance that no one is alone and that someone cares. To learn more, please visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
Welcome back to The Cat Show. Up next, we have Nico. Nico is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right. A group known especially for their sunspot sleeping, ball chasing, leg rubbing, and of course, companionship. Just look how she struts.
It's like she owns the place.
And see how she curls up and cuddles her person.
The pitch on her purring is simply perfect.
Nice one.
Fantastic cat. But really the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Nico is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Oh, hello there. And we are back, and we're speaking with Leah Guy as her new book, The Fearless Path, has just come out. And Leah, I was reading that part, and that we talked about, you know, the discover part and being present, and then you go into becoming or being awakened. And I was, because you're such a yogi and do this in your life practice and teach this, what does that mean to be? How does one become, like, what does it mean to be awakened, and how does one become awakened?
Well, I think, again, we give a lot of, you know, huge amounts of credit to these terms, but really awakening, the section of my book that talks about awakening is it's the heart. It's being open and vulnerable and aware. And, you know, to get to this place, it really just requires, one, the mindfulness, the presence, and also the willingness to keep our heart open and not to be strung around by addictions and bad relationships and, you know, living in a place that kind of keeps us, our hearts closed off, our hearts and our self-expression. So it's really important as we become present that we start to become more aware, and in that awareness, then we slowly, just like the morning sunrise, you know, we just slowly start to see life differently. We see our experiences differently. We see our inner world a little differently. And to me, that's what it is to awaken. It's a very organic process that's available to everyone.
You know, when you just mentioned about addiction and abusive relationships or harmful things like that, and then I was just thinking about that process of being the heart open, and is is something like an addiction or, being in a relationship that's not healthy, is that a distraction from opening our hearts?
Usually, yeah. I think, we're all, when we're struggling with our heart energy and keeping ourselves open, I use the heart as kind of the term. The heart's kind of the gateway, to full experiential living and communication between our soul and our earth body and so forth. And so when we're suffering and we want to kind of try to avoid the grief or avoid the pain, most people, many of us, that's when we turn to our vices. We don't want to deal with what the actual stressors are that's causing us to stay up all night. We don't want to deal with the pain or the grief and feel that gut-wrenching, awful torment. We don't want to deal, and so we go to food, we go to sex, we go to spending money, we go to porn, we go to whatever, alcohol and drugs. We go to whatever that can stimulate us again in a different way, so that we don't have the stimulus of the pain. And yeah.
That was it. And just as you're talking about right now, so like the heart being that gateway to allow us to have the experiential living, you deal a lot with chakras. Your book is filled with beautiful, helpful things to help us understand what chakras are. And I wrote down that you wrote life experiences imprint energetic patterns into our chakras. And I thought that was really, I love that you said that. And I thought, I would love to hear that a little bit deeper from you.
Well, it's pretty much, the chakras, as you know, and as a lot of people are learning and know, it's the energy system that kind of, that relates and governs part of our being, and also is the mirror of our experiences that we're having. And so every movement and if we just think of us as moving energy, every environment that we're in, every person that we're around, every feeling that we have and thought that we have, we're constantly shifting, and every moment is new, and every breath feeds us. And in these moments, we're experiencing life we're taking in so much input, and we're giving out a lot of signals and messaging and energy. And so I do talk a lot about the chakras just because they give me guidance as far as what patterns have been. Because when a pattern is kind of a habit in the body, or it's kind of stuck, or we're doing a certain thing the same way for a long time, then it shows up in the energy system as a pattern or as an imprint a certain way. But not to be confused that our energy is constantly changing. And so I think there's a lot of misconception about energy and chakras out there, and people want their chakras to be healed. And, it's not just healing the chakra. It's not just opening a chakra and then you're all set. It's not like getting a B12 injection for the day or something like that. It's all relative to, how you're responding to life and how you're experiencing life and what kind of output and input that you're taking. So it is important. It's like a gauge.
Yes, and when you just said about it's that energy and how we're experiencing. So, because I was dying to ask you about why letting go is harmful. I just love. I believe that too. So that's why I thought, I love that you wrote that. So why that? Let's debunk that myth right there. But why is letting go so harmful?
Well, letting go is essentially like cutting off one of your appendages. It's like you get a scrape on your arm. Do you just cut off your arm? No, you take care of your arm. You actually give your arm more attention. You heal the scrape. You put ointments on it. You put bandages on it. You clean it. You give it time to rest. You keep things away from it. You baby it. You pamper it so that you can retain your arm, and so there's no infection. And that's when you have to cut it off. And so, I always give this example on shows because I think it's the best example for spiritual seekers, which I'm sure a lot of your audience are people that are in this realm. The claim that we are all one, the creative consciousness, the collective consciousness, that, one drop of water creates a wave, and that whole theory. Well, it doesn't even make sense if you believe that to try to let something go. On the other hand, you can't have it both ways. You're either connected to all things or you're not. And if you're not connected to it, then you're disconnecting yourself from the full experience of life. you're disconnecting yourself from your experience of your own soul. You're disconnecting yourself from the experience that God or the earth, the universe, or whatever you want to call it, is given you to actually develop and evolve into the person that you are meant to be, and to have trust in that. That's trusting the collective consciousness. That's trusting the oneness. That's honoring the compassion and empathy that we have the ability to experience. But if we're just trying to run away or cut someone off because they have, bad energy or whatever, no, we should actually open our hearts to them. And it doesn't mean we have to keep relating to them, but, how do we make space and room and help them shift? If we just keep cutting everyone out and cutting everything off, all we're doing is just fragmenting our life, and we can't be strong with a fragmented self. And again, it's causing such problems, from anxiety and dissociation to OCD to inability to have intimacy to, so many things. And overall just stress, So it's really important to me. Wholeness is about healing, to get healed, just like that cut on the arm. We want to create a wholeness at any means possible that we can go to create wholeness. That's the route to healing.
In a weird way, you made me think how, if it's, let's just go with that analogy and say, let's not disconnect, let's not cut that off, let's not have a thing, then it's almost like saying to connect is impossible because we already always are connected. Like, so, so it's even, it's, but to realize
the mental
the
and
connection is
energetic
to be
thing
present.
that we try, we try to disconnect in our mind and our energy, and that's where the disconnection happens. And then it's like plugging in a wire into the wall, and only, there's 3 or 4 wires that are frayed, and the electricity is probably not going to work. It needs to be all the way it's supposed to be,
all together
and
on the same flow.
Yeah.
Right? The part you talked about empathy, your life story, very unique about emotions are universal and relatable no matter the specific affliction. One can identify a person to struggle with a varying degree of accuracy. And I love that part because I often, my dad used to always use the analogy when I was little. So I used to come to him crying and say, somebody doesn't want to talk to me or play with me because they said I don't understand their life. And my dad said, we don't all need to rob a bank to know what it feels like to be a thief. And I know that was almost like a negative thing, but he used such a strong thing. We can all relate because, like you said, it doesn't have to be a specific affliction. We can always have empathy with, as you said here, I love this, a struggle with a varying degree of accuracy. And that is so cool that you would connect with so many people and have empathy for people no matter what. Like I can, feel for you, and I don't have to have gone through the same things.
Mhm. Well, that's the language. That's the language of love, And when there's massive catastrophes to when there's a personal catastrophe in a friend or family, that's what connects us ultimately, And when we're not paying attention to that, or when we're disconnected from our heart, from our love, from our source, then that's when we have really struggle for empathy, and when people act out and also start having symptoms of stress and so forth. But that's the way that I lay out the book. Also, it kind of goes by chakras, but really it goes by the main ways that we suffer. So, no matter what your story is, here's the symptoms and the way that we suffer around shame. And no matter what your story is, here's the symptoms, the way that we suffer around fear. And no matter what this person's story is, here's all the symptoms and the ways that we can suffer around guilt, and so forth and so on. So there's only, kind of a few blanket ways that we suffer the same. It's just our stories are different.
That makes sense. I like that. Yeah, we all suffer the same. It's just the stories are different. What about guilt? I'm going to get your opinion on guilt. Is that a fear-based thing, or what? Is that, are we back to inadequacy?
Well, it's actually lived kind of between fear and shame. But the tricky thing about guilt is that, just like shame, there's healthy guilt. Obviously, we need to have a guilty conscience so that we know when we do wrong. And just like with shame, we need to know when we've, crossed our moral boundaries, so that we know how to correct ourselves and how to treat other people. But the problem is that we also absorb a lot of guilt that is not ours. And so people trying to process, especially, guilt comes at a very young age. Whether you spilt the milk on the table or your parents are getting divorced and you feel like you're the problem, or somebody doesn't love you the way that you need and you feel like you've done something, like you're not good enough, or that if you hadn't had stayed out too late or whatever the thing is. I mean, we can make up all kinds of stories. But a lot of people suffer from guilt that they're just kind of absorbing by association. And, like, for example, if I have parents that are alcoholics and then they made a mess of their life somehow, I love my parents.
And actually,
and then I'm
on that one, we are going to go to commercial. I don't want that to cut you off in surprise. But when we come back, let's do that one. That one's okay. Good.
The best of holistic, spiritual, and conscious world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free. AscendingHearts.com.
Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine and tune in for Inspired Conversations with publisher Linda Joy on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern. Linda creates sacred space for leading female luminaries, empowering authors, heart-centered female entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers. A soulful venue where guests openly share the fears and obstacles they've overcome, wisdom and lessons learned, and the personal journey that led them to the transformational work they do in the world. Inspired Conversations to empower you on your path to authentic, soulful living.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
And we're back, and we're speaking with Leah Guy, and we left off about with talking about guilt and shame, and you mentioned about how we can absorb emotions and stuff, and you had a story about you were going to say about your parents.
Oh, well, I was just talking about people and dealing with guilt, and I was going to use an analogy, not of my parents, but just if a person had parents, for example, that were alcoholics or addicted to something, and they weren't, present or available or giving the kind of love they need, and they kind of made a mess of their life. It's very easy for the child growing up to feel guilty by association, to feel like they're going to become like that they are the same kind of person as their example was, or what have you. And so, people are carrying a lot of guilt from their childhood and from their experience and so forth that it's not even there. So guilt is a really hefty one to process, because guilt is what weighs down our passion. It weighs down our creativity, our intimacy, our connection to other people. How can I have, really wonderful, healthy, strong connection to someone if I'm always feeling guilty, like, I'm going to mess something up, or, the things are my fault. It's my fault if someone's not happy or that things aren't going great. So it's a big one.
How do we? Okay, so I'm imagining I'm just this person here, and I've absorbed so many different things, and it's preventing me from my freedom, right? So how does one? Is the word clearing then? Because I don't want to let it go, right? But do I clear it? Do I do? Because I do emotional workouts, and so I was like, is that something that people need to do to so that will help them release it or I don't know what the word is, clear it?
Well, I don't use the word clearing that often because it does give that connotation of like something's wrong with us and we have to get cleaner somehow. But that's the workouts are about strengthening. We want to strengthen, and there's the whole this mindset for people that they're not good enough, that they're not doing something right, that they need to be on a better diet, that they need to spiritually cleanse. No, your spirit, your soul is perfect. We don't need to cleanse any of that. What we need to do is make our earthly experience in ourselves, our self-worth, our heart, our stabilization, our groundedness, we need to be stronger. And that's where the fearlessness comes in. That's where the courage comes in. It's not about taking things away. It's about adding to. And it gets you in a position of the offensive instead of the defensive. And when we're defensive, we're not only have a chip on our shoulder and waiting for something to happen to us, but we're very weak in that position. It's like, I say in the book, it's kind of like cowering in the corner of a boxing ring. You're either the one swinging or you're the one being swung at, and if we're going to be powerful in our lives and do what we came here to do and live our purpose, we need to be strong. And that's why the physical self, we want to get the physical self balanced and whole and unaddicted and feet on the ground and feeling good and sleeping well. And we want to get our emotional selves whole the same kind of way so that we have a strength.
You know what? That just made me think of it because I'm a nutritionist and I read you are a nutritionist. And a lot of times I'll tell people, yes, absolutely, it's important to, stop putting the garbage in. But you can take out all the garbage and all the unhealthy foods. However, if you don't add in, superfoods or herbs or, those nutrients that we need, you'll still be weak. You won't be like what you're just saying. That just kind of reminded me of that kind of a feeling. Just throwing this out there because this is interesting. When I was thinking about how people, you were saying about OCD or anxiety or stress and everything, I'm throwing this out at you. Sleeping. There are so many people with sleeping issues, and I wonder, is that tell me about sleeping.
What? You love sleeping?
Oh, no, how does one, say there's so many different people, they can't fall asleep or they can't stay asleep?
Yeah. Well, sleeping is contingent on so many things. I mean, right now, for example, I'm having a sleeping issue because I have an unusual amount of stress for the last several weeks of my life, just work and personal and everything going on. And I know when that happens to me, it throws off my adrenals, it throws off my whole hormone panel. And when my hormones are out of whack because of stress, then it keeps me from sleeping. My whole, circadian rhythm is off. I keep myself up too late, thinking, working, worrying, etc. And then I want to sleep longer in the morning. And then my body needs extra replenishment. And then it starts craving the wrong kinds of foods and sugars and so forth. And now we have just a totally imbalanced cycle. And add to that when there's, recurring worry and mental stress or emotional stress on top of just the day-to-day stress, it can really do a lot of, it can do a lot of damage to a person's sleep cycle. I think, it's a process that we really need to organically get rebalanced. I don't take anything. Well, I'll take like magnesium sometimes or, calms or something like that, homeopathic, to help me sleep, just a night to night. But I don't think that, inducing sleep with sleeping pills and that kind of thing is the best way because we have to stay aware of our process, and I think that awareness helps us to show up. It helps us to grow. And ultimately it will help us learn next time, that how to better take care of ourselves.
So, and speaking about taking care of yourself, you use a lot of oils and gemstones and things like that.
Do.
So, the oils, I find that so interesting with oils and how they can really affect. What about, is it essential oils, I'm assuming? What is about oils is it holding an energetic, like an essence to it? Or why do you use oils and how does that work?
Well, they work in so many levels. They're, essential oils are they're plant remedies. They're nature's first medicines, essentially. And they do so many things, like lemon essential oil. It can help wake a person up. It can disinfect the dishes in your sink. You can use it to clean other things. It keeps insects away. They're so multi-purpose, and they're very strong. So don't be, delusional that, oh, this is natural and I can just use it anytime I want, because they're very strong. They're strong on the skin. But when you use them different ways, like I make a line of chakra oils and we sell them on our website. And the chakra oils, you put them on directly. So the essential oils get into your body. They actually break through and enter into your blood system and stay for 2 or 3 hours. Then you get the olfactory benefit of smelling the fragrance, which we know helps shift and change the brain chemistry and our experience of mood and so forth, and or hunger, et cetera. And also they're very medicinal. A lot of the essential oils can, help kill off viruses, kill things in the air, air particles and bacteria and so forth. So they're very useful in so many ways. But our chakra oils, for example, are blended to energetically kind of help shift the energy of the emotion and the energy of the chakra itself. So, and then you get the added benefit of they smell yummy. And we put a crystal in each one. Smell yummy. And we put a crystal in to just amplify the energy. Crystals are very subtle, nature's subtle energy, and I tell people think of them like flowers or like plants. You go into a room, and it can be plantless and flowerless, and it has a certain vibe. You go into another room, and there's a lot of plants and flowers, and it has a completely different vibe to it when you go in. And whether that makes you feel calmer, or you're picking up, you're exchanging oxygen and carbon monoxide, or carbon dioxide with the plants and so forth, whatever it is, it changes the space. And crystals are the same thing. So is grass and dirt and all natural elements, So that's why I use them.
I love that you did. And I was going to say, when you were writing the book, how long did it take you to, because as you said, you found this overwhelming, so you wanted to put a process in like a workshop, because you teach workshops. How long did it take you to write the book?
Well, about a year. I've been kind of jotting down stories. A lot of the stories in there are mine, and then a lot of the stories are for my clients and so forth. So I've been, recording those over several years. The book kind of just fell out of me. When I decided to write, it was just like, it's time to do this, and here we go. So,
and here we go.
But it was about a year from start to finish.
Yeah. Okay, good. So it really has a lot going on in there. And I saw the video that you did on salt rocks, because I thought that was so helpful that you explained to people and about the size and what it does. And I love everything how you really say it's all these emotions, because that's the fear. The fear is really where we're afraid. We have these fears, but it's not just one thing. It's like how can we be present in that connection and not just by, like you said, clearing this and clearing that. And when you talk about spiritual mapping, is that something that we're doing to figure out where we maybe need more strength, or what's spiritual mapping?
Well, it's another tool that I kind of created, and I use a lot in workshops, but anybody can do it. It's really looking at your heart from when you start making decisions. Most people start making decisions because it's something they want or desire. Sometimes we make a decision from what we need, but typically, even the needs, like a job, we start from the heart, like what do I want to do, or what could I do? And then all of a sudden, we have today, and now I'm in a job I hate, or I'm in a relationship that, is not going anywhere, or what have you. And the mapping is really about helping us get really authentically honest about the decisions that I've made without blaming anybody else, without, coming up with a million excuses of how the story looks right now. Where did I make a decision where I started deciding out of fear and not love? Where did I kind of close my heart down and say, even though this doesn't feel right to me, I'm going to do it because I'm afraid I need money, or I'm going to do this because I'm afraid I'm never going to be loved again, or I'm going to do this because I'm afraid I'm not worth something better for myself. And at that moment, that's where the healing needs to start. We don't need to try to fix the end result right away. I mean, sometimes we need to, but that's not where the problem is. The problem is where we made a step on our path that came from fear and didn't come from our heart. And that's when we can recognize that, then we can recognize our pattern. And that's our pattern. We act out of fear of I'm afraid I'm guilty and no one's going to love me because I did wrong. I'm afraid I'm not good enough and nobody's going to love me because I'm unlovable and I'm not worth somebody's love. I'm afraid that I don't belong here. I don't know what my purpose is. And I'm afraid nobody's going to want to utilize me because I don't know what my gifts and talents are. I'm afraid to speak my expression I want because I may get rejected and people will criticize and bully me. So there's these different fears, and that's what we have to understand.
So we'll go to a commercial in just less than a minute, but I want to say, once we find that step, I love that you said that. When did you start deciding out of fear and not love? Because we can't go back, but what we do is now we look at what would be the next decision made of love to make next. Is that
right? And
how
we be aware, the awareness, the awakening. Yeah, we discover it. We become aware.
And there's that commercial. So when we come back, we'll continue.
Connecting you with the best of the conscious minds in the world. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
More than 24 million Americans have an autoimmune disorder, and that number continues to grow. I'm Sharon Saylor, and I'm one of those 24 million. To put that number in perspective, cancer affects about 9 million and heart disease up to 22 million. That's why I've brought together top experts and those thriving regardless of their diagnosis to bring you the latest, most up-to-date information. Join me, Sharon Saylor, Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, for the Autoimmune Hour on Life Interrupted Radio to find out how to live your life uninterrupted.
Me, a cat, moving in with a new human. It took a little getting used to. She has these weird games she likes to play, like this giant feather. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. She sticks it in my face. I swat it away. It's almost like she thinks I enjoy it. But seeing how much fun she gets out of it, well, I guess it makes it all worth it. Humans.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
And we're back. We're speaking with Leah Guy and diving right into all the beautiful, helpful things on her new book, The Fearless Path. And we just left off and we were talking about, I love that you said the healing starts actually from that awareness. And what I was looking for, I guess, for my own answer of saying, okay, so if I've now become aware and I'm present that this decision that sort of the path I've been on is coming from a decision I made out of fear, not love. So that's the awareness, and I've decided. And then I was going to say, now what do I do to not correct it, because there's nothing wrong with it, but how do I get myself back on this loving path?
Well, that's where the next section of the book is about transformation, and we can only transform when our mind and heart starts communicating ultimately to our soul. The mind and heart start communicating. So when we realize mentally that, we are making our choices, and of course, some of our choices get made for us in life, and that's when we have to deal with how we handle our pain and suffering in our heart and in our mind and the grief and so forth. But the choices, the conscious choices that we're making, once we become aware of when we're choosing out of fear, we have a new opportunity every moment to do it differently, and that's where the practice comes in. And for me, this is where the help of meditation comes in, where the help of mindfulness, the conscious thought instead of just the mindless thought, and how that can actually help us transform our experience. Even though we can't change the past, we can transform right now, and I can use my mind to work with my emotional bodies and allow what is real to be, and get back and connect it into my heart center to make choices that actually work for me, that actually will help me evolve and grow to meet my soul. And that's, I think, the purpose of our life.
Oh my goodness, you just said meet my soul. I love that you said that. I was going to ask you, I just want to bring up the CD that you have, the guided chakra meditation, but when you said about when your mind communicates or connects and meets with your heart there, in your opinion, when you think of the word intuition and what that is, can your mind have intuition, or is that just more of a heart? Does your heart have, what part of us has intuition?
Yeah, the intuition. Well, it's tricky because the intuitive mind we think of around our actual brain area, our third eye area. But it's our whole being. We use all of our senses in intuition. Yes, some people hear, some people see, some people taste, some people feel. They're psychic or intuitive kind of abilities. But in truth, we're using all of our receptors to take in information, to feel, and to sense. And again, it's when our heart is closed, we can't really translate the messages from our higher consciousness. We can't, we can't understand or trust how to follow that. And when our mind is so full, or when our mind is trying to run us and control us, then it's not open enough to allow that information to flow through. So we really need our mind and our heart open. And I don't mean just like being open-minded and like everything goes, but I mean to be in control of the mind, and to allow the heart to actually do a function in our life. And the heart, it's not just to fall in love, and to get crushed by heartache, but the heart is really, well, in the book I call it the bridge between heaven and earth, between body and soul. It is the gateway between how we experience our life here and translate that into our spiritual bodies, and how we understand and translate that higher consciousness and intuition into our earthly experience. But we have to get the mind out of the way first.
I love that you use the word control, because that's often where I would think the difference between reacting and responding, because reacting, and something you said, I keep saying you said it because I read your book and I can hear your voice, but when you said about the self-imposed suffering and stuff, so I feel like if that control, with that compassion, with the love, with the open heart, we're able to respond and then make that decision out of love. And I love the guided chakra meditation CD that you have. It's for emotional healing, and it's right here, A Fearless Path to Inner Peace. And I got to listen to it, and I think it's a fantastic, it covers all the bases. It covers all the chakras, actually. But is that something you do when you do your workshops? I mean, this is a really helpful CD for everybody.
Yeah. Well, I teach meditation every week, and in all my workshops, yes, I certainly do a guided meditation. I find them to be very powerful as a group, and I think the chakra meditations are much more than just healing chakras. It's about, getting grounded and feeling safe and being connected and diving into ourselves a little bit deeper. And to tell you the truth, I wrote the script for the chakra meditation, the words that I wanted to say. But with the musicians, we did not, and I didn't, even though I had a script, I didn't rehearse at all. I went into the studio. There were two musicians, very spiritually, connected kind of people. And I told them within 30 seconds or less, here's what I want the CD to be about, and here's how I want it to flow. And we recorded that CD in one take. That's a live recording. There was no mixing. There was no anything. And there was no direction or notes or anything. They listened to me and were guided by the meditation, and I listened to them and was moved by the music. And we just played together, and we had kind of like a cosmic experience together. And we just ended together, and we started together, and it was beautiful. It was a beautiful experience. And I think that comes across. The CD is a little bit different than some of these really overly produced, which those aren't bad, but just this was a little bit different.
It's very organic, and I think that's why I kind of fell in love with it, because I was listening to it. I thought, wow, like I don't have to be in this, okay, I got to get ready and really be, it was just I just connected with it so easily and so well, and I felt like each part of me was getting a little bit of love, as you said. It is a guided meditation, so you are helping the listener to feel it, but then put that a presence and awareness on each chakra and each thing. And I love that there's those the statements, like the affirmation, like a I am here, or breathing in, breathing out, and it really helps people with that. And we're going to end up having to wrap up soon, but we still have 5 minutes, and we can squeeze a lot in. I want people to hear, first of all, how to get in touch with you, how to buy your book, how to do that. Where can somebody find you and order this really super helpful book or CD?
Well, my website is modernsage.com, or my name, which is leahguy.com. And there you can find the meditation CD, the chakra oils, aura sprays, my events where I'll be, and so forth. And the book is available at Barnes & Noble, at Target online, obviously at Amazon.com, and then other retailers. So if you're at a bookstore and you want it to buy from your local bookstore, just ask them to order it, or you can go online and buy it, or you can go to Barnes & Noble, and it's available everywhere. So I hope people, get, and you can even do the audible version if you prefer to have a book read to you. Yeah. So
yes.
Yeah.
So they can track you. So Leah's Leah, and then Guy, Guy, and the book, of course, The Fearless Path. I just love that. And just in wrapping up, I know it's a big section, because I loved how you explained and wrote spirit versus soul. That was so. I've tried to share this with people, and sometimes I fumble over my own words, like I have a sense of it and I get it. But I just love how you shared that. In closing, can you share with us how can we differentiate between the spirit and the soul?
Well, I think the best way to say it, I guess, is the spirit is the part that we recognize in each other as humans. So as I look at you and look in someone's eyes, I can, it's kind of like the decoding a person almost. I can get a glimpse of their spirit here. And the soul is the eternal, everlasting, pure essence of who we are. And so the soul kind of guides us, but the spirit is one of our characteristics, I guess, if you would say, that communicates with our soul. It's kind of the also, like one of the gateways to how we experience the world here. And so they're very closely related, but they are different in that the spirit has much more to do with who a person is here while they're here, and how they're expressing their soul, how they're engaged in life here. But I do want to clarify something about that word spirit and spiritual. Just a matter of pet peeve for me is, when people say she's more spiritual, or, she's the most spiritual person, like, again, that judgment of spirituality. We are all spiritual in a sense. We may not all be religious. We may not all be practicing some kind of, rituals or something, but the judgment of people being more or less good or connected somehow is just, I think it's inaccurate, and I think it's very dangerous. So I want to encourage people to see the spirit in all people and allow them to be where they are.
And that's a beautiful thing. And I think that you've kind of summed it up what I was getting from just reading part of the book and even listening to that, is that it's that judgment that we really want to stop doing. And I don't normally be so bold, but you're right, because this is where the fear is coming from. Every time we judge and we do that better than or this then, and trying to get somewhere where we're not. But so being present, not judging, and having the heart be open to allow for that gateway for both spirit world, or just what's going on in our own bodies at this very time.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I really want to thank. I just love hearing from you, the actual person who's written this book that I'm going to probably have to read a few times over, and I just really encourage everybody to pick this up and just even start listening to the CD, because I find just the way you've done it, and now knowing that it was so organic and not just one take and everything, it means even so much more to me. I'm gonna have to listen to it again today, but just to send everybody to you, so the modernsage.com or to your actual website, Leah Guy, and to pick up and purchase the book, The Fearless Path. So thank you so much, Leah. I so appreciated having you on the show today.
Thank you. It was great to be here, and I hope you have a great day. It's the eclipse day.
Oh, thank you. It's the eclipse day. Oh, goodness, that's actually perfect. And you know what? I think you're in New Jersey. I'm here close to Toronto. Mine's happening about 8 minutes ago, so I am going to run out the back. I can kind of see the sky darkening. But I hope everybody can see it as best they can. And enjoy the eclipse without safety. Okay, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.